Hey, it's your old pal Lucid Stew again. We are working in Dreams for PS4 with my City Streets kit. So far we have laid out a 4-lane street grid and built a few buildings. Let's make some more. I have all the City Streets kit pieces laid out in a scene called City Streets On Grid Starter Scene. You can find that in the Dreamiverse if you want to build with it or follow along. I have Building Facade 1. This presents two sides, an upscale retail store or apartment building and some light industrial or rundown retail storefronts. Anything I've done specifically in previous videos I'm going to speed through in this one. If you get confused about something I've done at high speed, check out the previous videos. The cards for those should be coming up right now. I've laid out 4 walls with Building Facade 1. I'm going to do something a little different with the base on this building and get rid of a few wall pieces. Then I'm going to move these outside walls in to form a thinner building. Then we'll fill in the gaps with some plaza faces. This time I'm going to work with Building Tower. That's the one without the number. You probably remember from the last video that each tower has a plaza piece on the top and bottom face. One is plain, the other has a planter for a tree or whatever else you might want to put there. We have a lot of space to fill, so let's flip the tower upside down and go with a planter face. I'm going to fill in all of our voids. Keep in mind when you flip these, you'll probably end up off grid, so you might need to adjust them at a finer scale. This particular tower, top and bottom, don't quite fill in our 8x8 space, but that's okay, we'll just make more copies to fill in the space. When you're making these, keep your resource use in mind. This is not a cheap way of doing it because we're ultimately going to use 24 sculpts to fill in those voids. That's not an issue on a single building, but if you spend 50 sculpts to make a building and do that 20 times, now you've consumed 10% of your gameplay thermo. I'm going to copy all these copies and fill in the other side. There are some gaps, so I'll multi-select a group of these sculpts, flip it to get the other plaza piece, and fill in the gap with that. Same thing on both sides. No gaps left at the end. Again, you won't be doing this at a larger scale grid, so don't freak out if it's a little out of whack. I need something to put in the planters, so I'm going to grab a tree from my Lucid Trees collection. This one is Golden Wattle, which I made for the Dreams Guild Australia pack. Nothing all that special here. I'm putting one tree in each planter. I'm scaling and rotating them separately to avoid repetition. I'm going to grab a new copy of Building Tower since the ones we just put down are all funky and off grid, and I'm going to rotate this to what I like to call the Hall of Justice face. I did not do that rotating from the top like I should have, so now we're all out of whack as far as the grid goes. That's fine. Everything clicking together super easy is for when you're new and not used to everything yet. If that's you listening now, when you grab something and rotate it, you're going to rotate it around the grab point and not the center of the object. That's an important difference to realize and a big contributor to why things don't line up when you think they should. Okay, so I'm filling the basic shape in with tower pieces and then copying and rotating the same face outward just like I did with the other towers. I did it a little differently by rotating 2 towers at the same time because I'm a big show off. On this tower in particular, you're going to see the faces overlapping more in undesirable ways, which means we're going to be adjusting these more to get rid of the nasty one underneath that we don't want to see. And that's easy enough. You move the tower out a little until you don't see the other one. The balancing act is doing that without having your tower overlapping the base facade piece in front of that. So tweak, 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 copy, 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 and we end up with that built out to an even roof height. Looks fine the way it is, but when you're talking about a whole scene, too much uniformity looks strange. So I'm going to vary the roofline. You don't have to get too fancy with these things. I'm pulling one side down a floor. Voila, more interesting roofline. Let's make another building. This time I'll use the backside of building Facade 2, which is a dingy walk-up with a storefront. I'm getting back onto 4 grid so I can place my first piece exactly on the corner, just the way we like. We'll try making this building less regal to fit the style of the facade. Same thing we've been doing with cloning to fill out the block, and I'm going to grab building tower from way across the scene. I'm going to pick the face that looks like it's made of brick. I have a fire escape piece planned to give these a little more personality in the future. I'm adding new pieces to the set constantly, so be sure to either follow me in Dreams, follow the City Streets Kit collection, or check my sample scene from time to time to see if you can spot anything new. We've covered most things you'll need to deal with concerning the facades and towers at this point, so I'm going to zoom through this and stop a couple of times to point out things worth mentioning. Really, the only thing worth talking about on this one is how I'm copying, rotating, and releasing half the building to double it. Kind of like how I was doing with the base facades. There's also the same issue of needing to pull these towers out more toward the street to separate the faces while being aware of not overlapping the base facades. And also pulling some of the towers up or down a story or two just to create a more interesting roofline. This next one I'm using Building Facade 3 and Building Tower 2 again. Nothing new here, but I want to show it to you high speed anyway because it's sort of the culmination of ideas used in all the other buildings up to this point. One thing I do want to mention is getting variety out of these, and one way you can do that is with various sliders in the object's menu. In this case I'm going to make it less shiny, more metallic, and then color it blue. It's still very similar looking, but at least there's some difference there. I think most of your genuine variety will come from combining elements to create new looks. I also have more elements planned that will give you additional freedom in designing and implementing more unique building types. As you can see with this one, I'm still working on varying form factor and roofline to try to differentiate it from the others. You can also see here I'm combining these towers in a new way to generate this pattern on the side. And then the rest will be getting the faces properly matched up, generating a plaza space, then adding some trees for greater overall scene variety. There are more buildings in the sample scene, but this pretty much covers it as far as techniques for basic towers go. In the next video I'll show you how not to build a park in this setting, and then I'll show you how to fix the park you shouldn't have made. Should be informative. We'll take a look at some inefficiencies and then strategies to mitigate them. Well, that's all for this time. Until next time, I'll see you in the Dreamiverse.